Hello and welcome back. This is ProTaleDev back with another Passing Rooms video, and this is for the mini jam 92 death game jam, and this is the third day. So what we're going to be doing is just having a look at kind of continuing where we left off yesterday. I mentioned at the very end that I had worked on more of the map because I recorded it a bit late, and now we're going to kind of continue where that point was and carry on. So to start off with, I finished the second day and I moved on to the third day. I started working on the level. I'd already done a little bit of the level and I really wanted to get everything finished for this game jam. So of course I needed more levels, so what I did was I finished completely the top level, did the second and then the third. But in the actual order, I actually did the third first, the third level first, because that has the buildings all expanded out. So each building has like 3 different sections. So each corner, as I mentioned, there was 4 different corners that would have their own theme initially, but they now all have the same theme, but they're all different building sections. So you have the ward, you have the surgical rooms, you have the private rooms, and then you have the reception. Now, essentially I built on that idea and added extra rooms to the very bottom sections, and then when I was done with that, I basically built them back up. Apart from the first layer, that was I built the first layer first, extended it, then created the third level, which I expanded the rooms out, and then copied that whole section onto the second layer, and then got rid of 1 room from each. It's a bit hard to explain, but if I just go in here, let me turn the lighting off so you can see it better. Here we have the surgical room. So these rooms are all pretty much connected by these 4 corridors, and these 4 corridors will lead into their own individual buildings. So here we have the reception. Initially I was going to do signs, but I ran out of time. So you have the basic reception, and this is just the first room. If we go to the very top floor, you can see that this is all the reception is. You have a place to hide in this cupboard, in this cabinet, and then you have just this reception room. There's another one. And then in here we have the private rooms. So again, just a couple rooms, places to hide in these, and nothing to them. Yeah, this is the surgical room, but there isn't much to it. It's just a couple of walls, places to run, and a cabinet. And then the final one over here is the ward. Really simple room, place you can run around, very basic. Then moving on to that, we had the second floor, which expanded each area a little bit more. So again, the ward that we just saw, this whole section now opens up. And the players should seamlessly not notice it until they're exploring. They might not even notice it completely, but their rooms are actually expanding. When I had 2 people playtest this, they didn't even notice that the rooms were expanding, which is kind of good because it means that it was seamless. They didn't really notice it, and they were just kind of moving from section to section, and they didn't even notice that on the first or second try. They didn't even notice that the whole level was expanding, which is good. So this next section had a little bit of a room here that you could run around, and that was the second room that was added. Then if we go back to over here, this was the surgical rooms. This whole back section has now been opened up, as well as another cabinet and a surgical room. It's the best I could get it. I didn't have that many props and I didn't really have time. I also didn't want players to get stuck on objects, so I tried to keep it as open and not as barren as possible, especially in a game like this. So yep, you have this extra room. Next we had over here in our, I believe this is the private rooms. You now have a massive corridor here which opens another section of rooms, and again more places to hide, as well as this big room here where the player could run around. Next is the final room, which is the reception, and this added a staff room, as good as a staff room as I could make it with what I had and with what time I had, and again another cabinet to hide in. Then we get to the third level, and in the reception you had the staff room, the reception area, and now you have a little storage area that you can run around. But each one of these cores enters a new room for each level. So if you had the main reception on the first level, for example, you had the core in this room, Then when you got to the second level, it was in the staff room, and then the third level it was in the storage room. It's the same thing for each room on all of the different levels. This is to try and force the player to explore new areas, and so that they're not just walking to the same places. So then you had the ward, and again this is expanded out even more, so now you can loop all the way around and then all the way back. So that's the third room to expand onto the ward. Again, surgical room, same thing, you have the surgical room, however now you can go all the way around, as well as into this surgical room, having it open into another section and go into another room here, so it's even bigger. As you can imagine, this took a lot of time. I actually spent a long amount of time on the final day working and making sure this level was working, adding everything. It took a long time. And then we're back here. Did I miss any rooms? The ward, surgical room, and oh yeah, and the private room. So now the corridor is even longer, which I kind of like as well. And you can actually expand even from this section here. You can go all the way around to each of these rooms, and you can even go back through these rooms by this opening here. So that is the 3 levels. Again, every time you get 4 cores, you go down by 1 level. So 4, 8, 12. Once you get the 12, you'll actually transport to a different room. I split all these rooms up specifically, so you have the starting room, then you have the final room down here, which is just a black room with a sort of a circular portal. You go through and it'll end the game. And it's kind of similar to how we started. So up here you have this room, and then you go through one of these portals and it'll start you in the first room. Okay, once I'd done the level and that was finished, I started doing the lighting to make the lighting perfect. At the same time as when I was juggling the lighting, I was also went around and yesterday, oh not yesterday, but the second day, I managed to find a monster. And I brought the monster in, got him working, got him moving and animated. Luckily it came with animations, but I started to program them to get them to activate correctly and have him walking around and chasing the player. I had a lot of issues with the nav mesh. I actually had to change a lot of my plans with the nav mesh. It wasn't as dynamic as I thought it would be, and this is the Unity built-in nav mesh like navigation system. I didn't realize that you couldn't really move an object onto a new mesh section without it causing issues, and I found that it was breaking a lot of the navigation. So I actually came up with a different solution, which was to have 3 separate monsters, 1 for each level, and then just deactivate and activate the monsters whenever you enter a specific level. And then I'll just have all of their health connected into one single health bar like system. That way it didn't really matter, it still worked the same way, and it was just a current fix. It doesn't really cause any issues, and it still get the same result I wanted. So yeah, once I worked on that, again I went back to the lighting after doing a little bit on it, and then trying to figure out how I could light the whole of everything up in the right way, just playing around with different spotlights, different way of looking at it. Same time I was looking at doing the torch for the player. At the same time, I also did a torch on the players just so they could see a little bit better. Probably could do with a little bit more. And then finally I went to the cores, and then I completely redid them. Instead of them just being a circular object, I changed them to a book, and then added a point light on them just above them to make them glow. I'll go through a video in a second, or not a video, but I'll play it in a second just to show you what I mean. But basically that was what I did. I also made sure there was plenty of cabinets around for the hiding mechanics. Again, hiding mechanics were all done on the first day. A lot of the mechanics were. And really it was just the third day was really about just designing the level, making it look nice. The final thing I did, or the second to final thing I did, was the post-processing. I added that because this is the universal render pipeline, so I added in a bunch of stuff here to make to add a unique effect onto the camera. Add that little color, add a bit of depth of field, some aberration, some extra aspects to it to really make it shine and glow a little bit more, and really add that little horror aspect to it. Apart from that, For the most part, it's really cool. It's a really spooky, dark aspect. I also added in some music and sound effects as well, just to the environment. Didn't take very long, but it is in the credits what I used, so I won't name it off here. It is in the credits of the game. Added some new font in, the bloody font as well, to add a little bit of extra, so just some fine-tuning, quality of life stuff. And then the final thing, which is pretty much the final thing I do on every game jam, which was to add in a main menu. So if I quickly just go into here and into the main menu, just quickly go into the main menu. It's not much, didn't take very long. I'll just play it here. Hopefully the sound isn't too loud. All I did was add in a logo, name, got this scene in the background, the credits, a little bit of details, and the controls. Then you can I've just coded these in to make sure they work, so you can press play or quit. What I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to quickly play it now. So that is everything ultimately. Sound effects and things were like fine-tuned, and of course I uploaded it to the game jam a couple, maybe 2 or 3 hours, I don't know, before it finished, and yeah, everything was good. I'm getting some really decent reviews, feedback, finding some bugs and issues that we had. But now let's actually play it and see what it's like. So again, we can go in, we start off in the starter room. We have the game ends on the top left, as well as a hiding lock to force the player to hide, as well as total cores that we need to find. We also have the health, and I didn't really like how I did the UI for the health, but I was going to put it in the world, but I didn't feel like I could create a effective system in time, so I just left it as it was. Now we can go into these portals and start the game. So again, we got the torch working, we can see around. I really like the lighting, and as you can see, the monster is right behind us, so let's quickly go and hide. So there we go, I pressed left shift to hide. The monster's now going away. There is actually a bug where I can move my torch because I forgot to deactivate the torch, but I kind of like it, so I kept it. I think it's quite funny, and it kind of breaks the little horror game a little bit, but hey, it's just a game jam, you know, so here for fun. So once you feel like the monster's gone and the hiding lock is now hit 0, you can leave. Again, the timer is 20 minutes, which I've done a couple of tests, and you can do both wins in that time. So if I just leave here and then get this core, you hear that little whisper which confirms that you've picked it up. You can see we got 1 core now, and we can just sort of run around and leave. We've got an interesting depth of field here and some cool colour effects. And I know where all these locations are, so I'm going to quickly grab them. I also like how the cores look a lot. We can also put down some blood because I added a quick image of what a blood pool will look like. So if I just press right click on the mouse, I put down some blood, which we will take damage, and he'll also lose some health, but of course I can die as well. Now I can restart, and unfortunately there's a bug where I can't move, so I have to actually completely restart. But there's also the aspect of, yes, we can do damage to the monster. I'm going to try and do this seriously now. You can also jump as well. I've made it so the player can jump and get away. Where is he? Where is he? I know he's here somewhere. Here he is. Yeah, you can also hear the heartbeat and the whispers. So the whispers is the monster itself, the monster of regret, and the heartbeat is actually you, but it's on the monster, just to help you indicate if he's actually getting closer or not. Again, you can pick up these. There'll be a whisper, and you can just hide in these cabinets, which I'm going to do now. And I've got a nice camera that activates, so it deactivates the main camera and activates these cameras, so you can actually see a little bit more, and which helps you to determine if you can leave. So let's leave and try and escape. You can stay in there as long as you want as well. It's completely up to you. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to loop around, and then I want to try and get to the get 4 cores and leave up 4 levels, just to show you that the world is expanded. We are on a new section. Okay, so yep, we're in the private rooms, which we just were a minute ago. Have we done the reception? I don't think so. So if I just pick up this right here, you see it a little bit better now. Pick that up. I'm also going to do some damage. So as you can see, you can do damage, and it's 25% the blood takes. So you can just keep doing damage and win this way, and you know there's a timer, so I'm interested in seeing how quickly players can, you know, sort of do this. But you can also do it this method, which is just to collect all the cores. The cores do replenish health, so if I pick this up, we're back to 100%. And there you go, the monsters and the monsters just disappeared. We're on a new level now. We're on a brand new level. Just hide here for a second. You see my torch. Woo! Oh, there he goes. And as you can see, we're on a brand new level. So if I quickly just escape and have a look at this, as you can see, there's this new section over here. Now the monster does a ton of damage, of course, but as you can see, we've opened a new area here. We can now go and collect this core, and this will continue all the way through the game until you get to the big levels. I won't go all the way to the end. I just wanted to show you all of the basics. But yeah, you can just do that. I initially wasn't going to have the jumping in it, but I decided for it because sometimes there are some situations you just cannot get out of in some certain areas, and the jumping isn't too crazy. But yeah, we can just continuously do damage with the blood. Ultimately, I'm really happy with how this game ended up. I'm very pleased, and I think it really, really works. If you want to try this game out, it is on itch.io. It's on my page. There'll be a link in the description. So yeah, definitely go and check it out. Give me feedback. See what you think. So this has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you next time.